Hey everyone! I'm so excited that you guys are all here for the Fiesta workshop. I'm Mandy Blissett, owner of Bloomhouse, and we've got Elizabeth Moore, one of our designers, who is in the chat room moderating. So if you have any questions or comments, anything throughout, be sure to chat in with the chat function on the side. I think you have to have a Gmail account in order to kind of log in. So go ahead and do that at this time. Also, you should have already soaked your green foam block of Oasis. If you haven't, go ahead and go do that right now. We're going to give you guys a few minutes to get all situated. Hi, Carlin. So excited that you guys are all here. In addition to your pre-soaked block of Oasis, let's go through everything else that you should have. You should have your beautiful blue and white vase. You should have some good scissors or shears. These are the kind that we love in-house. I can't pronounce its name because it's Japanese, but they are on our favorite things page on our website. So if you want to get the same kind that we use, these literally make cutting through stems just as easy as cutting through butter. They save our hands. And they're really versatile for like any outdoors work. So if you want to use them outside of our workshops. And then you need a butter knife or any kind of kitchen knife. These are floral knives that we use around here because we're going to be cutting into our Oasis. And then, of course, you should have your bundle of flowers near and ready to go through. Oh, also, you should have your candy handy that came with your workshop this time. We have the base on the bottom of our Oasis. Go ahead and turn it upside down. And we're going to cut just inside of that marking all the way straight down. Try to go as straight up and down as possible. And discard this stuff. You don't need it. This is probably my kids' favorite part of anything. They say it's so satisfying, Mommy. So we're just going to cut straight down so it will fit into our base a little bit better. Next, as you can see, the bottom of our vase is rounded, and we really want this to fit in there really well. So we're going to cut at about a 45-degree angle just around the sides, just to kind of round them off a little bit. It's okay if you cut too much or too deep. That's not a big deal because your vase will be full of water, so you'll still have a good water source for your flowers. And this is the very, very bottom of the vase, so it won't affect your flowers. So now we have a little rounded kind of dome on there, and we're going to go ahead and slip it into our vase. If it's still not fitting well, it's too tight, turn it back over, shave it off a little bit more so it fits nice and well in there. If it's rocking around a little bit, don't worry, that's not a big deal. Also, if it's sticking up a hair, that's not a big deal either. We're going to cover all of this. All right, let's clean up our space a little bit. Give you guys a few minutes to finish that up. Perfect. All right. We just want to do a little shout out to Chloe from Pastor James. Hope you guys are enjoying the workshop, and I can't wait to see your guys' arrangement when you're done. Next, let's put our vase to the side and get out our flowers. Hopefully you guys have had these soaking if you got them yesterday, so they're nice and hydrated. And we're going to separate these out by type. So in there you should have your beautiful hot pink Floyd roses. That's the variety. It's called Pink Floyd. Then you should have your orange spray roses, and these are called Mambos. You should have these really funny looking things called green trick dianthus. Little side note, dianthus is just a fancy word for carnation. So these are part of the carnation family, and they're just as fun and hardy and versatile as regular carnations. Then we have peach spray carnations. Then we have these beautiful bicolored daisies. I completely forget the exact variety of this one, but as you can see, it's got white tips with a purple center of the petal, and then a really bright pink, green berry center. So this adds like really fun texture to our arrangement. Then we have blue delphinium. If you were watching last week, I kept on calling the larkspur delphinium, but this is actual delphinium. And this is the dark blue color. It can come in light blue, white, and light pink. And then you have 2 stems of Liatris. This is a super fun, very bright colored flower. And we're actually going to start with these. Because we're only going to see the top 6 or so inches, we're going to remove all of, Karen, there's someone at the door if you don't mind. All of the flowers and buds and leaves from the bottom section. And the reason we're doing this is for a couple of reasons, and you're just going to pull them off. You're not going to ruin it. Is because it's going to, if we try to insert all of this into our oasis, it's really going to crush it, and it's not going to hold well. Also, we remove all of the leaves to help minimize the amount of bacteria. So go ahead, and you don't have to remove it all the way because we're not going to use this entire stem. So in an effort to save yourself some time and energy, only go about halfway down and go ahead and just cut it off. Go ahead and do that to your next one. And then if you get it started, sometimes you can just run your hand right down it and pull them off in clumps. It's a really hardy stem. So chances of you breaking it off are minimal. Where did I get my shirt? Well, that's a really funny story. On my way to work this morning, I was talking with a friend, and she's like, "Are you all decked out in your Fiesta gear?" I'm like, "Oh my goodness, no." And I don't even know if I own a Fiesta shirt, like a truly Fiesta style shirt. And she's like, "No worries, I'm coming to get my workshop from you. I'll bring you a shirt." So shout out to my friend Krista Kelly for saving the day on my shirt. So we've got our nice clean Liatris. Next, we're going to go to our blue delphinium. These we don't have to cover up too much at all. The tip of this one is broken, which is okay. You've got plenty of blue that we can use. I'm just going to snip him off because he'll go bad quickly. And we're going to save cleaning up these guys for a little bit later because we're actually going to get to use several pieces of these stems in there. If you do happen to have any leaves or anything at the bottom, then you can go ahead and remove them. Next, we're going to go to our daisies, our bicolored daisies. We're going to go ahead and remove all of the leaves. And if there are any dead items up here, that's okay. We've got tons of these blooms to use. Just go ahead and pull off anything erroneous leaf-wise. Also, some of these blooms that are here at the bottom that aren't open, just go ahead and peel those off too and discard them. Again, remember, you need to pull your leaves off at the very base of the stem, not from like out here, because as you can see, they're attached and you could pull the whole bloom off and then you can't use them very well later. If you have things really well connected, you might want to use your clippers to clip out these buds because they're going to get in the way. They're not really going to open either. So saving them for later is not a good idea. They just won't open. Go ahead and clean off all 3 stems that you have of these. And actually, while we're doing this, I have a really special surprise for you guys. As a thank you for joining us on these workshops, we have a discount code for your next one that you can share with a friend. The discount code is Ombre WS20. So you'll get 20% off our next workshop, which is an ombre style arrangement. And you guys can share that with your friends so you guys can all do it together. And I'll show you what that ombre looks like here in a little bit. Anybody else having issues with all the pollen in the air? I know my car, everything outside is all covered in the pollen. Liz just put that discount code in the chat so you can see it. Copy it, share it with your friends. We're really excited about next week's. Next, let's go to our spray roses. And be careful on the roses this week, guys. We were not as lucky to get roses without a lot of thorns, especially these hot pink ones. If y'all have already noticed, they have some monster thorns on them. Let's go ahead and clean these up just in the same way, taking off all of your leaves. Now, if you have any petals up here, these are called, that are damaged, they're called guard petals, and that's exactly what they're supposed to do. They guard the rest of the rose from being damaged. This variety is very, very hardy, so you might not have a whole lot of them. They are supposed to have this more darker guard petal than the inside. It's not truly a variegated rose, but it could be considered one. I like to leave them unless they're like super damaged because it really adds to the variety and texture of the flower. But if there are any damaged, like creased ones or ones that have any rot on them, go ahead and remove it so you can save the rest of your flower. Also, these little green things on the sides are called the calyx. That was what the flower formed the bud in. If those are nice and healthy, you can leave them. If there are any that are way down or creased, or again, you've got a little bacteria going there, go ahead and take them off. Nice and clean at the bottom. You peel them off right at the very base. We don't want any like hanging chads because it doesn't look natural, and it could be distracting in your arrangement. But as long as they're pointing up and are fine, we can leave them. So go ahead and clean up all 3 of your stems. These tiny little leaves, I still like to remove just because when you're trying to thread other flowers in your arrangement, sometimes they can get in the way or they can get underneath the stem when you're poking it through to the oasis and it will block the water source. These are just so pretty and happy. All right. I'm gonna have to pull off a single guard petal off of those guys. We're gonna leave our carnations because these are the last, one of the last pieces, and there's not much cleaning up you have to do on those. Your green tricks. Some people have really funky ones like this, and that's okay. Others have more ball-shaped ones. They're the exact same flower, they just come from different growers, and they're gonna work in your arrangement just the same. So if you have a slightly different one than the one I'm using, that's okay. They're the same flower, they just grew in different parts of the world. I'm gonna use the funky one since it's gonna take up a little bit more room. Last, we're gonna clean up our roses. If you have a really good thorn at the bottom, the best and easiest way to take it off is to push sideways on it. That way you lessen the chances of sticking yourself. If you're too nervous to do that, that's okay. Use your clippers and just clip them right off. And then you can take the leaves off again, right at the base, all the way up. Then again, at the bottom, these calyx, if they're down like this, you can choose to remove them, but unless they're rotting or damaged, I tend to leave them. And then we're gonna wanna remove our guard petals. Anything that's creased or has any damage or has any spot of rot, happens that water gets into it and it promotes bacteria. Removing it helps preserve the life of the rose. If you have a creased or damaged petal in the middle, but only like one of them, you can easily go in there, just wiggle your fingers through and open that flower up a little bit and pull out that single petal. And again, that will help minimize the spread of any damage on the inside. Next, we get to do my favorite part, is opening our roses. This variety is already really nice and open, but he can open up bigger. So we're gonna turn him over and slightly twirl it in between our fingers like this. Don't do it too hard because it's going to, some petals may shoot off. Right like that. Also, you can lightly blow on the inside of your rose to open him up. So I'm gonna show you kind of a before and after like I usually do. You can see nice and blown open and then a little bit tighter. There you go. This does not damage your rose by any means, and it doesn't shorten his life at all. It just helps you enjoy his big, beautiful face for longer. So go ahead and clean up all 3 of your other roses and open them up. Get a bite of your candy, a little spear coffee. For those of you local and haven't tried the Spotted Deer next door, they are truly amazing. We are addicted to their wonderful coffee. All right. So we have 3 beautiful open roses to work with. All right. Now that everything is clean and ready to go, we'll clean up our workspace a tad. There we go. Now we're going to get our vase back out. It's the same on all sides, so it doesn't matter how you have it. We're going to start with our purple Leatris. When you design an arrangement, you want to be proportional to the vase that you're having it in, typically. I know a couple of weeks ago we did a really big arrangement in a small vase, which is a newer trend that's coming out. But in most typical floral design, you want your arrangement to be proportional to the vase. Otherwise, it's not as visually stunning. So we're gonna cut our first one you've got about a 6-inch top, 6 to 8-inch top, and then about a 4-inch stem. You want to cut it at an angle. That way when we insert it, it's like inserting a knife into butter, and it goes in a little bit easier. And we're not crushing it. We're not just pushing through the oasis. It also gives a little bit more surface area to the stem to help draw water up into it. And so we're going to insert this one slightly to the left. I'm sorry, I'm doing this backwards for you guys. So it's slightly to the right for you guys from center, straight up and down. Right like that. Our next one, we want to be slightly taller. Same length of the bloom, 6 to 8 inches. And we're gonna make our stem a little bit longer. So we had 4 inches on the first one. We're gonna do about 5 or 6 inches on this next one because he's gonna be a little bit taller. Go ahead and cut at an angle. And we're gonna go just left of center on this one, right next to it. And we're gonna have this one staggered. So he's gonna be just a little bit taller than the other. Next, we're going to use our delphinium. Now, this is way too big of a bloom to sit in there. That would be way unproportional. So you can actually get about 2 stems, you can use 2 portions of the same stem. So about halfway down from your bloom, you want to get, again, about 4 inches of bloom, and then go about 2 inches lower than that. And cut at an angle, weasel your shears in between the blooms, and you want to cut at an angle again. So now we have 2 versions of the same stem. Now this top part, we can't insert that into the oasis very well. So we need to remove some of these blooms, sadly. So you've got at least 2 inches worth of bare stem. Okay. And then this next one, we want about the same length. So we've got the same amount of blooms, and we're going to cut about 2 inches below our last bloom. Okay. And we're going to do that with the next one, but we only need 3 portions of this. So you're going to have a little bit of extra delphinium to do whatever you want with afterwards. We want these to be about the same in length as far as the blooms go. All right. That way our arrangement all looks similar from every angle. Sound good? All right. Now, when we're designing, we want to be able to see a little bit of all of the colors from every side. So we're going to think of our arrangement in a triangle form from here on out. So let's go ahead and insert, and we're going to do it at a little bit of an angle. Right here, about halfway between the liatris and the bottom of the vase. Go ahead and insert it. So he should be at an angle right like that. Okay. Then again, thinking of the top of your arrangement in a triangle, go to the other corner and do it in the same motion. If you're running into problems, you can't push it in anymore, you're probably hitting into the stem of the liatris. That's okay. Just take it all the way out and put it at a slightly different angle so you can go around that stem. Again, you want these to be about the same height so your arrangement looks consistent. And then you'll go to the point of your imaginary triangle and you'll put in your last piece. So from the top, this is how it should be. Perfect little triangle there. All right. Next, we're going to take our fun little green trichodianthus. We're going to cut about 4 inches or so down from the bottom, again at an angle. If you have anything erroneous on these knuckles that you still have up here, go ahead and take them off so that they don't crush through your oasis. Be careful when you're removing those because these things like to break at their knuckle points. If you do break him too short, it's okay. He'll still work just fine. These guys are extremely hardy and they dry really, really well too. So we're going to put these guys next to our delphinium at a little bit of an angle. I cut him too long, so I'm going to trim him just a little bit more. And this guy, as you can see, we like to work with the way that the flower actually grew. So I'm not going to put him in the arrangement like this, where he's kind of facing away. I'm going to put him in the arrangement facing like this, going with the direction of the flower. If you had more of a ball-shaped one, you want to make sure to put it in at a little bit of an angle, just like you did the delphinium, so we can see as much of the top of him as possible. So you'll just nestle him right there next to your delphinium. we're gonna go just a little bit lower than him. So the top of my delphinium is here and the top of my green trick is there. Go ahead and do that next to your next two delphinium. Just nestle them right in there next to your delphinium. Now this guy is monstrous. He's going to overwhelm my arrangement. He is just way too big. So I can actually trim him up. As you can see, if you look at the bottom of them, they kind of look almost like some sort of broccoli. And you can trim off those branches to get just pieces, a smaller version of what you need. Be careful not to trim too much, which is really easy to do. So now I have one that's a little bit more appropriate, matches the size of my other two. Okay. I'm going to put him in his last little place. Next to the delphinium. Beautiful. All right. Now we're going to start working from the top down. I usually like to do all of one type of flower at one time, but in this particular arrangement, we're going to need to work from the center down and filling things in, because otherwise getting these smaller blooms nestled way up there is going to be a little bit more difficult because their stems are a little bit weaker. So let's start with our next biggest one besides these, because they're going to go in later. Let's start with our orange spray rose. So some of your spray roses can have multiple lengthy stems like this, or they can come a little bit shorter in clusters like this. We're going to use as much of these as possible. So if you have really long, lanky stems, go ahead and cut them off from the main one all the way up to the small cluster at the top. If you have small ones that are only a couple of inches long, you can leave them clustered like that. Cut them a little bit shorter, just like that. Alrighty. Go ahead and do that with all of your spray roses right now. So this one, even though the top part is shorter, he comes down long like this. So if I cut this guy off, he might be too short to use. So because I have an extra length to this middle cluster, I can cut him off here and still have plenty to use here. And then this guy has plenty of stem to use here. And same thing with this guy. Down here, he might be too short to use if I cut him off right here. So I'm going to give him more of a chance at being used by cutting him like that. And don't worry if you've messed up on any of these spray roses. You have more than you're going to need. So if you can't use every single bloom, you're going to be just fine. All right. So now, again, thinking of your arrangement, it's in the triangle sections. You kind of want each little section of your triangle to look the same. So I'm going to take some of my longer stemmed ones, and we're going to insert him near our delphinium, above the trick. So your trick is down here. We want the spray roses to be up here, a little bit more in line with our delphinium. And we're going to do these in little clusters. You want at least 2 or 3, depending on how big your bloom is, up high here. And we're going to do that with every little corner of our vase. Again, you're going to insert them at a little bit of an angle so their faces are facing you. I'm going to do this one as the individual one so y'all can see if you were doing individuals, what that looks like. Clustering things in like flowers looks more of how things grow in the wild, because when they seed, they're going to seed right underneath them and then grow up more new ones right near it. So clustering makes things look more natural. So you should have 3 clusters of your taller oranges. We're going to save the rest of these oranges for a little bit later and lower in our arrangement. Next, we're going to take a stem or 2 of your daisies. And again, these have really long spindles. We can go ahead and cut those all individually. Go ahead and cut all of them. That way they're all ready. And you're just cutting at the base where that stem is connecting to, the smaller stem is connecting to the main stem. And it's okay if you have a couple shorter ones like this, because we're gonna go high and low in our arrangement. Go ahead and cut all 3 stems. So you have all individual daisies. These are so happy. I absolutely love these. What movie did the line come from? Aren't daisies just the happiest flower? It's a really good movie. Okay. So now we're going to take a couple of our daisies and we're going to put them high in our arrangement. You can put some directly behind your green trick. So between your green trick and your liatris, near your oranges. And here we're probably only going to put about 2, depending on how big your green trick is. And these don't have to be the same height. They can be a little bit varied in height to add some drama. If you've got a bigger opening up there, you can add 3. But we do have that carnation to accent up there too. I'll show you a top view so far. You can see my triangle is still intact with my orange. And we're gonna put a touch of the daisies around there too. Don't worry about filling up too much of a hole. Again, you've got those carnations that we're gonna put in a second there too. Now, when you're putting these into the oasis, you need to really be feeling for where you're putting it, because if you break it, you need to take it out, cut it above where you broke it, like that. You need to cut above where you broke it, because now you have broken the water source chain in here, and your flower will go bad faster. So if you broke it, no big deal. Just cut above where you broke it, and you can use them shorter in your arrangement if necessary. That one needs a 3rd. Sometimes if you need to, you can thread your fingers through, let's see here, through and feel where that stem is and help support him going into the oasis. We have to do this a lot when we're doing event work, because we fit so many flowers and things. So let's look at the top view again. 1, 2, 3 clusters, little clusters of daisies. Now we're going to take our carnations and do something similar. Again, you've got really long spindles of these. You can go ahead and cut all of those into little piles. Always want to keep them longer than you think necessary, because you can always cut it shorter. Can't ever make it longer. Well, you can, but that's a really advanced floral technique. And it does only really works for event work. It doesn't work for long lasting retail type flowers. You got a lot of carnations here. If you have any in the bud form like this, you can discard them. You can choose to add them at the end of your arrangement, but they're not going to open up really. So you can kind of just discard those. And really only the ones that are in super bud form. If they've already started opening like this, we can use them. So bud form that's not going to really open versus slightly cracked. Can you all see that? There you go. We can use a slightly cracked because if you've done workshops with us before, you know that we can fluff open carnations. They're very hardy. There, see? So go ahead and do that with your carnations. Let's just go ahead and open these up. And these are actually mini carnations. They're called carnation sprays or mini carns. They're obviously much smaller than a traditional carnation. This is one of the beautifulest peach colors. A lot of people don't know that Fiesta is actually a fundraising event that raises, I think it's millions of dollars for various charities and services around the city. And it is all volunteer run. It's a purely volunteer organization, the Fiesta organization. All right. And you can continue opening your carnations even as we go. So up here, any remaining little hole you have near your daisies and roses, we're going to add just a touch of these carnations. Again, at least 2. And you can stagger them in height. You should stagger them in height. Again, these stems are a little bit weaker, so if you need to kind of thread in through the bottom, please do so. If you feel it bend when you put it in, you need to take it out and cut above that bend mark. All right, so I'm going to show you. I want one in this area, so you can actually thread through your green trick in through those little branches, and then weasel your fingers down in there and find that stem to help him go all the way through. That's a funny word, weasel. It has a pretty bad connotation, but we like it. You can go ahead and do that in all 3 of your areas. So you've got a little bit of color all the way up. Now, for example, these roses are kind of spraying open on their own and causing a gap. I'm just going to fill that little gap with a little touch of carnation. You always want to work with the natural, how your flowers are naturally working. You try not to force them too much, because then it won't look natural and they could say nope and just break on you. So now I've got a touch of all of those colors at the top of my arrangement, and they're still in my little triangle form if I'm looking from the top. Now we're going to work our way down, and we're going to add our regular size roses. So first on top. Go ahead and cut these at about 3.5 inches down from your bloom, and again at an angle. And we're going to put these right next to, you should have a really large opening right next to your green trick. Again, put them at an angle so that you get to see his big, beautiful face. And we want to nestle him pretty darn close down to the bottom of the vase. It's okay if you've got a little bit of a gap because we'll fill that up, but we want to get down nice and close. You want to use the stem to thread him in there, not pushing on the bloom as much as possible. So go ahead and put those in each of those larger holes next to your green tricks. Perfect. And you want to make sure that he's nestled down in there. You don't want him poking way out. We want our arrangement to be a little bit tighter in the circumference. If you have them sticking way out here, that's not going to look natural, and you're also not going to have enough flowers to fill all those gaps. All right, now we're going to work our way down our arrangement. So because we've got the daisies way up here, we're going to go ahead and add them next in. So we're going to add a little bit of cluster right to the top part of our rose. Right like that. And you can add one or two. I like to do two. Again, it looks the most natural when things are a little clustered. And we're going to do that for each of our roses. Just thread them in nice and low there. Again, be very careful when threading them through. If you need to get your fingers down in there to help him go down, right like that. And you just nestle right into place. Also, not making the stems too long when you're trying to thread them in like that is helpful. If you have extras after this point, you'll be able to add those in towards the end. All right. So you've got your little daisies next to your big open roses. Next, we're going to do the rest of our orange roses. And we should have a little bit of a gap down here, kind of below our delphinium, next to our green trick. And we're going to put those right there. That way we have a really good even mix of color. Again, you want to do at least two per. These ones you can cut nice and short to only having about a 3-inch stem. Okay, below our dolphin. Flora Delphinium. And I'm going to put 2. If you're running out and you still only have these little clusters, it's okay. You can go ahead and cut those clusters off and use them as shorter pieces. So below each of your delphinium, you can have a little touch of orange. All right. Now, any remaining hole that you have, you're going to fill in with a touch of your carnation. And if you have any daisies left at that point, you're going to go ahead and fill those in. So let's go ahead and start with our carnations. So we have a little touch of these all the way down to the bottom. Again, you want these nestled in right with your arrangement. You don't want them sticking out like this because that will be very distracting from your arrangement. If there's any place throughout that you feel like you're missing a little bit of a particular color, go ahead and fill that in now as well. So like right here, I've got kind of a darker hole here. We're gonna go ahead and fill that in. As you can see, we're kind of missing some peach from that side. So I'm gonna put one extra daisy here. And we're gonna put a little touch of the peach here. There we go. And we filled in that hole. Also, you want to make sure to fill in any holes at the bottom. We call it hiding the magic. So if you can see the bottom of your vase here or any poking out stems, let's see, there you go. I don't like to see all that magic. We call it hiding the magic, excuse me. So I'm going to put another flower right there just to hide all of that. And it looks like a little orange could be used there. So let's see, hiding the magic right there. We're going to cut him pretty short so I don't have to thread him in too much. Still too long. So right there. And now he hides all of that stem work and the bottom of my vase. And that should be your arrangement. Make sure now to fill up your vase with water. That way everybody's getting nice and hydrated. And you'll want to water these every couple of days to make sure that everything stays nice and fresh. And he should last for several days. And then with all of your extra arrangements, you can put them in any kind of bud or flowers. You can put them in any kind of bud vase that you have. I'd love to see what you guys get to do with anything you have extra. Be sure to send us pictures of you and your smiling faces with your arrangements. That makes our hearts swell so much when we get to see you guys with your arrangements. You can tag us at Bloomhouse_fine_flowers on Instagram or just Bloomhouse Fine Flowers on Facebook. And it's in our traditional box style arrangement with this beautiful ombre from purple to hot pink to medium pink to white. Get a nice little close-up of that. So that's why the discount code for next week is called Ombre WS20 to get 20% off our workshop for next week. And you can dress it up with a little ribbon if you want. This is one of our most popular arrangements on our retail side. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I am so excited to see you guys next week and to see all of your pictures that come in after the workshop with you and your arrangements. Thank you guys so much for joining us.